I'm Gaia from Universitas Pita Harapan, accounting class of 2018. I'm here to criticize about some articles and videos referring to an assignment for my English class. First of all, before I start, I hope nobody will be getting any misunderstanding after watching my video, and this video is only based on my opinion with no hard feeling in it. So let's get started. This article was taken from an official website called thejakartapost.com, and I'll briefly talk about the article before I begin sharing what I disagree about from this article. The first article that I'll be sharing about is the recent terror attack that happened in March, and many of you probably have already heard about this. The title is An Attack on One Faith, an Attack on All Faiths. So, it is about a terrible terror attack in Christchurch, New Zealand, and it is believed to be caused by hatred. The Prime Minister Morrison said that there were numbers of innocent people who died and got injured due to this attack. He stated that Muslim Australians are us. It can be proven that Australia is a country that respects diversity, such can be seen from its most multicultural societies. Even the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister visited one of the mosques to deliver condolences to the victims' families. The Australian government will support, protect, and denounce any terror act of hate and comments about the Muslims. They have committed to ensure the migrant and community to feel safe living in Australia. The critique that I have for this article is there was a sentence in the article where it was written like Australia is proud of its diversity, which has greatly enriched our nation and made us one of the most harmonious multicultural societies in the world. I strongly disagree due to this attack that has happened. Where could we possibly see the diversity and harmonious societies in the world when there's still racism happening in Australia? How are they saying that they are proud of their diverse country when their people are still attacking other people who do not share the same religion, ethnic, and races? I believe if they do think that their country has been labeled as diverse country, this terror attack wouldn't have happened. Moving on to the second article. This article was written based on an interview, and the title was called Should I Move to Sweden to Build My Family? So let's just jump into the story right away. The number of population in Sweden is considered small. The estimated population in comparison between Indonesia and Sweden is extremely huge. Sweden has about more or less 10 million people, while in Indonesia, it has more or less about 269 million people. That makes it about 26 times larger than Sweden's population. And so majority adults there live together without getting married, or also known as samba relationship. And this reason could be why their government offers them a special treatment when they give birth to a child. Parents who give birth will be given 480 days parental leave. Their children will be given monthly allowance, and their education fee will be sponsored by the state up until university. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, because we're the fourth biggest country based on the population, special offering like what Sweden received do not apply in this country. Parents will only be given 90 days parental leave. Free education is only given for those families who have financial limits, and kids here do not receive monthly allowance from the government. The critique that I have is living in Sweden may sound nice, but living in Indonesia could actually be better. Indonesia is still developing, and although our government aren't able to fully support their people like how Sweden does, the living costs and taxes here are way lower than Sweden. To calculate, it's actually just the same whether you choose to live in Sweden or in Indonesia. The job opportunities in Indonesia are higher than Sweden, and so there are so many reasons why we should be proud of living here. Now, the third one is based on the source is taken from YouTube with a title called Fix Yourself by Professor of Psychology Jordan Peterson of University of Toronto. He said that blaming others for your problem is a complete waste of time because from that you don't learn anything. There are two fundamental attitudes. For example, one is where you blame the world as a whole. Two is when you think what could you possibly do differently for yourself. To change yourself, it takes courage and discipline. So do not waste your time, don't spend money on useless stuff that you don't need, and lastly, do not procrastinate. So you have to stop doing what you know is wrong for you in order to become more productive, and do pay more attention and give more effort. then you'll be more confident. Oh, and tips: fixing yourself will do no harm to people and it will help you pursue a better life. The critique that I have for this first video is that I believe that Professor Jordan Peterson was stating that all the changes needed are based by internal. What he was trying to say is that we have to start changing our mindset first before actually changing the overall. It is true what he said all above, but does changing ourselves mean we could only change how we think, how we work, and how we respond? No. I personally think that changes could be from our mind, personality, behavior, appearance, knowledge, patience, and forgiveness, and many more. And do you happen to think that actually changing yourself into a better person sometimes do need what you call money? What if you have decided to become prettier in mind and visual? It takes time and money, right? Yes, it does. There are times where you can spend your time and money on things which you know is helping you to change into someone better. Yep. And lastly, the last video, it's about a speech given from Steve Jobs. So in this video, Steve Jobs delivered 3 stories from his experience or from his life. The first one, he called it Connecting the Dots. So in the story of Connecting the Dots, Steve Jobs here talked about his life started, about how his life started after he decided to drop out of college. He believed that it started from when he was a baby, where his biological mother, who was unwed graduates, didn't put him up for an adoption because she wanted Steve Jobs to be adopted by college graduates. But it turned out that both of his foster parents did not graduate high school and college. So his biological mother refused to sign the adoption paper. But 17 years later, Steve Jobs got into college, and this is where his life began. Not so long after he entered college, he was inspired by how his campus was well known for its best calligraphy instruction. He then got dropped out because he did not have he then got dropped out, so he did not have to take his normal classes. He then decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do it. He saw the beauty of calligraphy and learned about typeface, varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, and what makes great typography great. 10 years later, out of his expectation, he designed the first Macintosh computer with the lesson he learned. It was the first computer with beautiful typography, he said, and he was thankful that he got to drop out to get dropped in on that one class in college. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was clear to see 10 years backward, said Steve Jobs. So you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust that dot will somehow connect in the future. The second story that Steve Jobs delivered was, here he said that he explained how he started building Apple with his partner in their 20s in a garage. He was fired at his company with a total of 4,000 employees, but it turned out that he got fired from Apple. And he said that was the best thing, because the heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. He started a new company called Next, and Pixar, as we all may know, it is the most successful animation studio in the world. And so later, he met his love of life, which he got married to, his wife. Then Apple company bought Next, so he returned to Apple. The third story is called Death. When Steve Jobs was 17, he read a quote, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." So he asked himself each morning if he would want to do what he is about to do today. Remembering that he'll be dead soon is the best way to avoid thinking he has something to lose. He was diagnosed with an incurable pancreas tumor and was expected to live no longer than 3 to 6 months. But he was lucky enough to know after having his biopsy, it turned out to be curable with surgery. And so he had the surgery. He said, "No one wants to die because your time is limited, so do not waste it living someone else's life. Don't let others influence you, and most importantly, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to be and what you want to become." The critique that I have is actually, I have to be honest, I do not have any critique on this speech that he delivered, and I do agree that failure is the path to success. No matter how many times we fall, we just got to stand up again, try again, and that's basically the cycle of being success. Thank you, and that's it. Bye.